Thank you, Mr. Howell, and now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questioning. Well, I think that we agree on the end goal. So thank you. I like very much what you have been saying, so I just have a few questions here for you, and I'm going to start with Mr. Jacobstein. As you know, last month, Cuban regime officials were at the Miami airport inspecting something, a tour with TCA, and we just learned that last week there was a second secret visit of 4 Cuban regime officials to the same airport, the Miami International Airport, but this time 4 agreements were signed with the United States government. What type of agreements are those? Do you have any idea, Mr. Jacobstein?
Thank you very much for your question. So in terms of TSA, I would say TSA has coordinated with the Cuban Civil Aviation Authority and the Cuban Authority for Airport and Services for years on airport security measures and best practices, always in the U.S. interest.
But signing agreements with the Cubans, do you think the Cubans ever, once they sign, they ever fulfill their promise?
So I would just say in terms of the visit of the FAA, I don't want to speak on behalf of the Department of Transportation or the FAA.
Yeah, but you're at the State Department. You know everything that the United States government is doing vis-a-vis Cuba.
I would say the rationale for this visit is clear and very much in the U.S. national interest. We're interested in aviation safety.
You're going to tell me that the Cubans are going to help the Americans fight terrorism if they are in the list of terrorist states? So maybe, and maybe you can clarify this, I'm not sure why maybe you guys are trying to create a scenario where you can take Cuba off the list of terrorist countries. Do you think that's what you guys are doing? By granting by saying, you see the Cubans are here in Miami and they're signing agreements and they're going to help us fight terrorism. Tell me.
Absolutely not.
Oh, good. So you're not going to take Cuba off the list of terrorist countries? Is that what you're telling me?
You asked me about these visits. These visits are intended to promote aviation safety and security, especially for U.S. passengers. That is fundamental and critical to us. We want all these passengers, including Cuban Americans who go back and visit their family members, to be safe.
I agree with that, but at the same time, you're talking to Cuba officials. So go back to, is not what Cuba wants, which we know what they want, is what the United States, in this case, the Biden administration is looking for, which I really would like to be wrong in thinking that you're just laying the groundwork so you can take Cuba off that list. And I just want you to tell me that I'm wrong. Am I wrong? You're not planning to take it off.
So as I've said before, U.S. law establishes specific statutory criteria for rescinding a state-sponsored terror designation.
I am not asking you that. I'm asking you something different. Do you think the State Department at this hour is creating the conditions and the scenario in order to take Cuba off the list of terrorist
At this time, there's no review ongoing on state-sponsored terror. At this time, there's no ongoing review on the state-sponsored terror designation.
But you have until July 12th to start that ongoing, or to start that investigation or that study, because you have a specific date. So you're telling me right now, of course, is what? Is July, is June, what, 28th? But you have until July 12th. So what are you guys planning to do July 13th?
There's no specific time frame for a review, but at this...
Oh, yes, 6 months before. You need to review, according to the law, you need to review 6 months before, and then you take them off or you leave them on. So July 12th would be the day.
I don't think that's accurate to say that July 12th is the day, but I just would say again that should any review happen, any future review would be based on the law and criteria established by Congress.
Can you just ask yes or no if you guys are thinking about taking Cuba off the list? And the only reason why I'm insisting on this is because if you were to do that, you're giving that cruel and despicable regime oxygen to do what you just said right now. 1,000 political prisoners are in jail just because they went out and they claim libertad. So can you just tell me yes or no? Are you guys thinking about taking Cuba off the list or not?
I would just say again, any review of Cuba's status on the SST, should one happen, would be based on the law and the criteria established by Congress.
That means yes, you are thinking about doing it.
It does not.
And that is very bad. But we will talk about it further. Now, but I want to congratulate you at the same time because there's a new app application on your phone called which I'm not going to say it, but it's very good, and there's good news for the Cubans because now, for what I hear coming from the Biden administration, you're going to have an app that the Cubans are going to be able to use, and then when a TETSA shuts down, then this app is going to allow the Cubans to connect to another form of internet. And that's great. So, en español, para los cubanos, no están solos. Aquí en el Congreso estamos haciendo todo lo posible para que haya una aplicación en el teléfono y que se puedan conectar en el internet cuando el TETSA tumba la señal. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not tracking this specific issue, but happy to discuss our efforts.
But you just said it right now that you wanted digital. You said digital connectivity. That's number one, and Mr. Howell said it too. If you give connectivity to the Cubans, you're giving them the possibility of them demonstrating in the streets of Havana, and everyone will see them, even though they're being beaten by the regime. That's great. Connectivity, that's all we need. Do you agree?
Yes, the administration supports the Cubans people access to an open, interoperable, secure, and reliable internet. U.S. regulations already allow for certain activities to support the Cuban people's access to information on the internet. And the actions announced by OFAC, by the Treasury Department, on May 28th, including supporting greater access to U.S. internet services, applications, e-commerce platform that builds on that support. And then on top of that, I would say our programs through the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, they increase Cubans' on-island ability to access information and to communicate freely and securely using digital security best practices and censorship circumvention tools. So this is very much at the top of our mind.
Good. And we're going to work with it because I'm just saying it to you and to the Cuban people who are watching this hearing that there's hope coming. And I don't want to extend my time too much, and I don't want to fatigue my colleagues' patience. Just one more, Honduras. The State Department was supposed to give Congress a report on democracy in Honduras. It was due last week. What happened?
I will follow up on the status of the report as soon as I'm back.
All right, but why haven't you finished it?
Sometimes these reports lag in time for a number of reasons, but I don't have anything further than that, but happy to provide
You're not
that.
giving me, but I'm giving, unfortunately, Madam President Xiomara Castro, I'm giving her an F on the report because democracy is not being protected in Honduras, and I'm going to give you two examples. Madam President just honored Nicolás Maduro, the highest honor of Hondurans can give. How embarrassing for the Hondurans, the Francisco Morazán medal to Nicolás Maduro, really. And Madam President is China's best friend in the region. And not only that, she has established colectivos, Chavez style. You know what those are? That she forms sort of a paramilitary, a group of people with guns so they can go and attack the police. So in my book, she gets an F. What do you say about that?
Thank you very much. So our goal—
I'm sure she thanks you too.
Our goal through the root causes strategy in Central America is to focus on promoting democracy, prosperity,
But talk
security.
to me about Honduras specifically. How do you view what she's doing?
Specifically in Honduras, there are a number of areas in which we cooperate on migration management, on investment facilitation. We recently signed a memorandum of understanding on gender-based violence. Yes, there are challenges as well. And for example, just last fall, there were violent attacks on members of Congress during the selection process for the Attorney General. And so we, in response, used the Section 353 report to put a sanction in place for Ricardo Arturo Salgado Bonilla, who's the current minister
Are
of
you sending, Madam
planning.
President, the message that she should not be messing with Honduras democracy, and she should not be moving to the left like Chavez, Maduro, Ortega, Fidel? Are you sending that message?
Throughout the region, we absolutely focus on the need to have
And what do they respond in exchange?
good governance is critical in all the countries of Central America.
But
and
what
that
do
is
they respond? What do they tell you when you send that very noble message?
We have countless conversations. I won't get into the internal diplomatic conversations, but this is something that's top of mind, along with our focus on shared economic prosperity, anti-corruption, migration management,
Of course.
and a host of issues.
Finally, another 30 seconds, Nicaragua. As you said, Rosario and Daniel, they have a big piñata. They are now, Nicaragua has become this platform for people to arrive to come to the United States. We're talking about 1,000 flights. Each person pays $10,000. You've had 300,000 people from all over right here. You have people coming from Morocco, from Senegal, from Libya, from India, from Tajikistan, from Kazakhstan. You have 300,000 people coming to Nicaragua, and happens that 8 of them were terrorist members of ISIS. They wound up in New York. So what list would you put Ortega on?
Absolutely. This is top of mind for us. No one should profit off of vulnerable
What
migrants.
are you going to do about it?
We've taken a number of steps, which I outlined in
Tell me 2 of them.
For example, we implemented a new 3C policy Secretary Blinken announced in November 2023, in which we're revoking visas for charter airlines who are facilitating irregular migration through Nicaragua. We put in place a number of sanctions just on May 15th,
Why don't
which
you
I mentioned.
put them on the list of terrorist countries as well? Can you do that? Put Nicaragua? I mean, they're sponsoring terrorists. They're letting terrorists go through to come here.
Happy
we
to
do
take
that?
back your recommendation. I would say that
Now,
we've
don't you
taken a
think
number of
would you agree with that?
We've taken a number of very robust steps to deal with the irregular migration challenge, and you've seen a reduction in the charter flights. It's still a huge challenge, and I'm working very closely, in particular with commercial airlines, the International Air Transport Association, on the margins of the Los Angeles Declaration ministerial meeting that Secretary Blinken attended in Guatemala, put out a robust statement on the work they're doing. So we're working both inside of Nicaragua and outside of Nicaragua to address this critical challenge.
Thank you for your efforts. I yield back. And sorry, I appreciate your patience. Ranking member, now Representative Castro.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
I now recognize the ranking member for 5 or more minutes.
Thank you.